So today what I want to do briefly is I want to kind of talk about the polyvagal theory with you guys. Because, and how many guys do know about the polyvagal theory? Wow, not many, okay. So polyvagal theory is probably one of the most important theories to come out in recent times regarding how the autonomic system works, and not just for kids, though that's certainly very important, but for everybody, So, as an example, let me show you some videos to give you an illustration of what's going on here. So, hopefully this works. Here it goes. So you look at some of these kids here dancing, and they're all having a good old time, right? They're all dancing and stuff, and it's, I love some of these kids. You can see the expressions on their face, and they're happy, and they're engaged, and they're just having a good old time, right? And I love that. And this is right here. That's the ventral vagus. The ventral vagus is where they're at that particular moment. The ventral vagus is what we call, there are four F's to these different things. And the F for the ventral vagus, which is the top thing here, is friend. They're feeling friends. They're feeling friendly, right? And so when you look at these kiddos and they're just dancing and shaking and stuff, look at him over there. He's just having a good old time, right? And everybody's, grooving with him. It's so cool to watch that. And that's ventral vagus. And what that is, if you see everybody else around them is watching and they're all, dancing with him, that's called co-regulating. In other words, like, we're all together in this thing. So he's all doing his little whatever he's doing, and everybody else is like, yeah, right? So that's co-regulation. That is what humanity has been built on. We have been built on this ability to co-regulate, right? Because to be a social creature is unbelievably important for humanity. It's the only way that we have become the civilization we've become, is because we socialize with others. But we have to read the expression of others. We have to read that, right? So if you look at all the people here, and look at they're all laughing, right? So he's being encouraged, right? He's being encouraged to keep up this co-regulation, this dancing and stuff. He's being encouraged by the others doing it. Can you see that? You all see that? So, but I'm going to show you another video now, which is a little bit different. Let's see if it works. All right. Yeah, I want you to watch this child. And it'll replay. So what's this one? What's this child doing here? He's self-harming. So what did he do? He hit himself. And did he just tap him? It was just like a little love tap like this. What did he do? Full fist. From out here, back, bam, bam, right? That is not co-regulating. This is what a lot of kiddos on the spectrum do. Not all. I would venture to say, he looks like he's about 15, 16 years old or so. I would venture to say that this child is minimally speaking, is not nonverbal. Don't call them nonverbal. They absolutely talk. They just talk their own way. They will make noise. So they have verbalizations. They just don't talk English. Right? So don't call them nonverbal. They don't like that. They're minimally speaking. Right? So they may not be able to speak and say words the way you and I say words, but they certainly are verbal. And probably right now he is probably screaming, yelling, or something, right? So he's definitely being verbal. But this child is not the same as these kids. And I don't mean that, the hitting thing. I'm not just talking about hitting. What I'm talking about is their brains. The brain of a child on the spectrum is physically different than the brain of a child who is neurotypical. Physically. fMRIs show it over and over and over again. You can Google and find 1,000 articles on PubMed that talk about how their connections are different. they have more connections intrahemispherically and less connections interhemispherically. So going left to right and right to left, there's a lot less communication. Going across like this, front to back, a lot more communication than a typical neurotypical child. What that does is creates a functional dysregulation and a maturational dysregulation to their nerve system. So as these kids are at age level or close to age level during their development, this child is not. This child is here. Where is this child? Probably sympathetics. Yeah, anger, frustration, hitting themselves, like the self-harm, like this. There's probably, and we call that fight-flight, right? Right, we're using the F terms, right? So we have the friend on top and the fight-flight in the middle. Excuse me. And then on the bottom is the dorsal vagus, or the shutdown, or the last F of the four is freeze. Freeze. So, what would you think a child would look like if they were in the freeze response?
They could be dissociated.
Disassociated, yeah. But what would it look like? Show me what it would look like. You all can demonstrate it. Yeah. So I'm adjusting a kiddo yesterday, and he's sitting cross-legged on the floor like this. Right? Not looking up. Hey, buddy, I'll walk in there. Hey, how's it going? Give me a high five. Right? So that's dysregulated. That is completely frozen. Here's why I'm talking to you about this. Because these kids all need different adjustments. You don't do the same adjustment on these children as you would on this child. Because is this boy here, is he going to lie face down on a bench for you? No way. And a kid this big, you try to force him down, what will they do? They will kick, scream, and I have been kicked at and screamed at, etc. When I first started this work years and years ago, and I remember calling Dr. Webster before he passed away in '97. Because I graduated in '89, and I started seeing more and more, kiddos as he was training me, and I was doing ICPA stuff. and back in the '90s, the autism wasn't much, right? It was pretty low, right? Like, what's it now? What's the number now? 1 in 31. 1 in 31. What was it when I was born in 1963? 1 in 10,000. That's a big jump in 60 years. That's a big jump. So when you have kids like this that are co-regulating, and kids now, 1 in 31 kids that are not co-regulating, now you're having some sort of issues. So you better understand that there are different ways to adjust each child. And that's what this class and these labs are about, is to get you to understand that there are times when an osseous manual adjustment... Come here, Brittany. There's Brittany. So there are times when this adjustment is totally appropriate. Right? There are times, when this adjustment is totally appropriate. But not on that kid hitting his head. That would not be the right kiddo to do that kind of adjustment. Not that it's bad, not that it's wrong. Don't say that, and don't tell people I'm saying that. There's a time and a place for everything. And we need to know which time and place it is. And that's what I'm going to teach you. Is when to adjust with what technique. Because Gonstead is amazing. And that was my main technique when I was here in school. But you can't do a Gonstead adjustment on a kid who's hitting themselves. Because that kid, like I had a kid a couple of years ago, who, actually it was last year, first started seeing him, and his entire first visit was him slapping himself like this. He wasn't fisting himself. He's slapping himself in the head like this. the entire first visit. And I would get near him like this, and he'd go like this, like kind of lunge at me. And I'd just, okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. I just want to touch your neck. Is that okay? I'm going to touch your neck. And then he would let me touch his neck for a second, and then I go out. And I would do print reflexes with a reflex hammer. Have you seen one of these before? Have you seen one? He's 17. Have you seen one of these before? It's a reflex hammer. I'm going to just go like this. Is that okay? Mommy, let me do this on your hand so you can see. He can see it. Good. Can I do this? Can you give me your hand? And he's pushing me away. He says, it's okay. Just give me your hand. Just give me your hand. You had better learn to calm yourselves down. Because, like, you see these glasses I have right here? These glasses are $20 for 3 on Amazon. Why am I wearing $20 for 3 glasses? Because these kids have literally punched, kicked, and grabbed glasses and thrown them off, etc. And I said, I'm tired of getting like $300 prescriptions over and over and over again. So I said, I'm just going to get these readers and keep the prescription glasses at home. So you just have to get used to this. You have to learn how to duck and weave. And and they're not doing it. Like, here's something that a mom said to me yesterday on the phone. Another new patient was talking to me on the phone. And by the way, for those guys who came late, please make sure you get on quickly. Make sure you get on quickly. For those of you guys who came in late, I don't want you guys missing out. Thank you. The mom says to me on the phone, listen to this one. She's got a 2-year-old child who's not walking, but can walk. Like, the child is able to walk, but chooses not to walk. So in other words, like, you could pick the child up and go like this, and the child can take some steps and be totally fine and not fall, etc., but chooses to be on the floor. Guess what her health care providers say about this? They're giving it a word. It starts with the letter L. Lazy. He's just lazy. I'm like, you know what? I said this to Mom. I said, you know what? Lazy is something that comes when their prefrontal cortex is kicking in. That's something between like 3 and 6 years old. This 2-year-old kid, there's no ability for lazy. This is a developmental issue. We need to see your child. And she said, I'm so glad you said that. This is the kind of moms and dads that are calling you. I'm so glad you said that, because everybody else, including the physical therapist, disagree. They say he's just lazy. You're the first person who agrees with me. When can I come in? This is what's going on out there. Where do you think that kid is? Where do you think this kid is? Yeah, hard to say because I haven't seen him yet, but he's here, right? So I'm not going to adjust that child the same way I would adjust a neurotypical child who walks in and is totally healthy and happy and give me high fives and hugs and drawing pictures for me. And that's the whole idea of what the polyvagal theory is all about, is you look at the child, not just when they first come in, but every visit, and find out where are they. Where are they? Like I told you, my lab class earlier, we had another kiddo yesterday. 50% of my practice is kids. 50% of those kids are on the spectrum. 50% of those kids are minimally speaking kiddos on the spectrum. One kid came in, and I've been seeing him for a couple months, and usually he's pretty calm and wants to, like, he'll kind of cooperate and lie down and stuff and get adjusted. Yesterday he wasn't having it. He was sitting on the floor cross-legged, rocking himself like this. And when I came in, he just did this because he didn't. It's like, what do you think that meant? Does that mean, hi, Dr. Rubin? No, what does that mean? Like, get away from me. So I did sustained contact on him. I backed up. Right? I didn't do what I normally do, activator and whatever else. I said, okay, that's cool. The mom's like, no, I'll get him to lie down. I said, no, don't make him do anything. It's cool. It's totally cool. We're just going to adjust him where he is. He wants to sit on the floor, let him sit on the floor. Because what's he going to, in his mind, even though there's no words, but what's he going to think next time he comes in? Dr. Moon was cool. Dr. Moon gets me. He didn't force me. Because my job isn't get the job done. My job is build trust and safety. And over time, you see, now this doesn't matter how you practice. I don't take insurance in my practice. I stopped taking insurance 10, 12 years ago because they don't cover what I do anyway. I was getting all these letters back from insurance companies saying, what you're doing with these children on the spectrum is investigational, experimental. I'm like, hey, I'm watching kids like have amazing results. Why don't you come here and like sit here and like watch what I'm seeing and tell me how investigational, experimental it is? But anyway, after a while, we just said, forget it, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'll tell you what, not that you shouldn't take insurance in your practices, so I'm not in any way saying you shouldn't take it. If you want it, go right ahead. But in my practice, I'm free. And I have no timetable. So if it takes me a couple of months to get the kid to live face down or a couple of weeks, it doesn't matter to me. I'm in no rush. I don't got 12 visits, right? Because if you're on insurance clock, you got 12 visits, 10 visits, 8 visits to do what you can before you have to like figure out what to do and new paperwork and all this other crap, right? I got nobody I'm answering to except for me and the mom and dad that I'm working with. And I tell them that in the beginning. So what's a typical care plan? What's a typical care plan that you're taught to throw out there for anybody? Just a typical care plan.
Twice a week for 16 weeks.
Yeah, twice a week for 16 weeks. Okay, well, I hadn't heard that. That's actually not bad. But usually I hear something like 3 times a week for a month, 2 times a week for a month, once a week for a month. That's what I most often hear. Is that this 3 month, 3, 2, 1 kind of a thing. And that's not a bad care plan. But in my care plan, my minimum care plan for a child on the spectrum is 6 months to a year. And you ain't getting insurance to pay for that. They might maybe pay for the first 12 visits, if you say it's musculoskeletal. But I won't write that, and I didn't, and that was the problem. That was the problem. I say subluxation, and they're like, how do you prove this, and and experimental, I'm like, forget it. So, to me, what I want you to understand is I want you to understand that there's a different way to look at this. And that's my whole goal for this quarter for you guys, is to shift your thinking from the standard kind of thinking to a different way of thinking, because chiropractic can be really amazing, but neuroplasticity takes time. And you got to give it time. And if you don't give it time, it's not going to happen. And yeah, there's some miracles, one adjustment. We've had kids talk after one adjustment. Literally go from not minimally speaking to talking after one adjustment. Yes, but that's not the standard. The standard is things are taking 6 months to a year to really make things happen, really calm these kids down. And by the way, that kid who's smashing his head like this during the whole first visit, what happened after 6 weeks when we do a re-exam about every 5 to 10 visits? What do you think happened? What did the mom report after his first re-exam after 6 weeks of care? He's not hitting his head anymore. I just saw him yesterday. He's not hitting his head anymore. Now, is he talking? No. Will he talk? Probably not. But do you think it's a different experience that the mom's having? That he's not aggressive to himself or others anymore? Absolutely. Right? And that's what we have to look for. We can't necessarily look for the big wins, right? The kids, like, your job isn't to say, I'm going to get this child to speak. Because whose function is that? Who does that work? Speech therapist. Well, innate too, yeah, I like that. But a speech therapist. So that's not your goal. Your goal is what? Remove subluxations. Remove nerve interference. Get the brain and body working together. Reconnect the brain and the body. That's your job. And you got to make sure your patients know that. I told this to the lab, and I'll tell it to you guys. I'm not a brain doctor. I'm not a bone doctor. I'm not a back doctor. I'm not a spine doctor. I'm a brain and nerve system specialist. That's the line I use. I'm not a back doctor. I'm not a bone doctor. I'm not a spine doctor. I'm a brain and nerve system specialist. I want them to know that first visit. I want them to know what you've seen before and what you've seen on YouTube or whatever. If they've never been to a chiropractor, that ain't what we do. What we do is very, very different. We're going to get your child's brain and nerve system turned back on.